In the 18th century, the Baal Shem Tov, founder of the Hasidic movement, was approached by a young man bursting with Torah knowledge. The young man came to impress, not to ask. The Baal Shem Tov listened, then pointed to a chair across the room. "That chair," he said, "is greater than you." The man blinked. "Why?" "Because it knows it is empty." That's where humility begins. Not as erasing yourself, but making space within yourself for what is true, eternal, and not you. Rabbi Zusha once said, "When I die, they will not ask me, 'Why were you not Moses?' but, 'Why were you not Zusha?'" Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less, so there's room for God and others. Defining Anavah. In Hebrew, Anavah means humility, but not humiliation, not self-hatred. It's the sacred balance between knowing your place and knowing your value. As Rabbi Jonathan Sacks put it, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. True humility right-sizes you, not shrinking, not inflating, sanctifies your identity, makes it a vessel for God's purposes, creates sacred space for love, correction, awe, and grace. Before Moses, before David, before Adam, the first act of humility was God's. Kabbalah teaches Tzimtzum that God contracted himself to make space for the world to exist. The infinite humbled himself so the finite could be. When we practice humility, we're not lowering ourselves, we're imitating God. There are three faces of Anavah in Scripture. Moses, humility as surrendered leadership. Numbers 12:3 calls him very humble more than all men. He accepted greatness without grasping for it. He could lead, rebuke, and intercede, but it was never about him. David, humility as vulnerability. In 2 Samuel 6, David dances before the ark without shame. Humility freed him from self-consciousness in the presence of God. Abraham, humility with boldness. In Genesis 18, he says, "I am but dust and ashes," yet dares to plead for Sodom. Humility doesn't silence, it speaks when the heart is aligned with righteousness. The sages say, just as water flows to low places, so too does Torah dwell in the humble heart. Pride is noise. Humility is quiet space where God can speak. Rabbi Simcha Bunim taught to keep 2 slips of paper in your pockets. "The world was created for my sake. I am but dust and ashes." Read one or the other as needed. Humility lives in the tension between honor and surrender. The Hebrew word for compassion, rashamim, comes from rechem, womb. A womb receives, holds, nurtures, and lets go. So too, humility holds without owning, gives without needing. We live in a loud world that rewards pride and posturing. Anavah is quiet rebellion. It doesn't post everything. It doesn't need to be right. It listens more than it speaks, and when it speaks, heaven listens. There's a Hasidic proverb, "The tree that bends survives the storm, the one that refuses breaks." And like a candle, the flame rises only because the wick bends low. You don't have to be smaller to be humble. You just have to be spacious. Spacious enough to hold truth. Spacious enough to hold others. Spacious enough to hold God. So tomorrow morning, before you post, argue, or defend, stop. Make space. Say, "Today, I will make room for what matters, for God, for others, for the still small voice within." And then, do one hidden act of kindness. Let humility speak in silence. Because in the end, it's not how high you rise that matters, it's how low you're willing to bend. So the flame in you can rise.